Okay, we're going to come back to set number 22 in this video. And we're going to use one of these stamps here on a piece of, I think this is called paper bag, the color of this piece of pre-folded cardstock. Well, it's not cardstock, it's just kind of heavyweight paper, uncoated, okay? Now, what's going to make this a quick and easy card is this isn't the type of paper where you're going to want to, even if you were able to, kind of overwork it with a lot of different layers of media, okay? You might be able to coat some things on there, maybe some pigment inks or something like that. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll use my VersaFine on here. The VersaFine will work just fine on this type of paper. You don't want to use something like this on a glossy photo paper. You can use it on glossy cardstock, but it just takes a while to dry. At least the cardstocks that I've been using, it might take a couple days. It's a couple hours if you're out in Arizona during certain times of year, I found. But this works really good on this type of paper. I get these pre-folded cards from this place called Kelly Paper, but I mean this type of paper right here, this is not rare here at all. It's fairly smooth to the touch, nothing like a coated paper at all though. So, you know, it has some too, so I mean if you wanted to use some chalks or pastels on something like this, colored pencil, this type of paper would be fine for that. Alright, so what we're doing here is we're going for some different impressions on here. I might run into a little bit of trouble with this folded part right here if I have some imagery running off the top like that. I am going to fold this though and have some extra imagery up top there. And of course we have the sky imagery in here that we want to utilize. This isn't the ideal type of paper for that because I do like blending in my multiple impressions with some additional tone. Maybe I will do some of that because I do want to use some of this bleed-proof white, and we should still be under the, you know, the parameters of the quick scene format. Let's go ahead and try out Starbirth here. Starbirth is a little bit less dense of a design than, say, something like the Milky Way, which is a little bit darker. My only planning here is I'm thinking about utilizing some impressions of like this leafless tree here. So if I stamp this in black against something that's black like that and fairly solid, I need something a little bit more delicate, okay? Now I can stamp this like in a gray or something like that, you know, but I don't have like an 80% gray stamp pad. The pads that I have that are gray are a little bit lighter. And what I could do is I could ink this up, this stamp here, or the Milky Way stamp, okay, and then blot it off first and then stamp in there, but I don't know. I don't think I want to do that on this one. I don't know exactly how dark it is because I don't stamp on this paper very often, and I don't, you know, stamp my images in the VersaFine very often, except for when they're the final kind of ingredients for a scene. You know, I'll stamp out my imagery in VersaFine just to get that really dark, solid, almost 100% black, I think, value of black. Okay, now I'm wiping off the perimeter here, okay, because this is kind of a non-absor, you know, a very absorbent paper. And boy, I'm going to run into, whoa. I'm going to run into this little ridge here, but so be it. Well, I don't know. Actually, that feels pretty good. Maybe I won't. Okay, so let's get that folded here. And let's do a mask here. This is what always blows people away. And I don't know, a lot of the early demonstrations that I did, I just go like this, and people are, you know, kind of like, whoa, that's all the masking you need. Sometimes people say, hey, Shirley, come here, look it, you know? And then they, when they're doing it in a demonstration, they go, look at my mask. I remember someone yelling to their friend like it was like a revelation, you know. And I think she said something like she's never going to mask again or cut anything out. But I said, well, you know, if you're using outline designs, you know, you kind of have to, you know, do a cutout mask. But these are tonal designs, so, you know, if you get some overlap over your imagery, that's fine, you know. It doesn't interfere with kind of the overall appearance of it, unlike a design that's made up of a bunch of outlines. Then you'll have these these overlapping outlines going into one another. But this is just tone into tone, and the way that these are designed, you want that tone running into tone, because that's the thing that brings that kind of seamless integration into all of your images. Okay, so remember, avoid kind of the kind of the jigsaw puzzle type of usage of the designs. You want everything to just overlap. Okay, so overlap a little bit, not on 100% of every design or something like that, but you know, for the most part. It's all about that blending and integration of imagery. And I say that especially with the sky figures, because they are rectangles, you know, and we don't want a bunch of kind of like bricks in the sky, you know, where it's like you have the space in between the imagery. Okay. Okay, so we have that filled in like that. All right, now I do have a little bit of gaps in here. I can fill that in with some additional tone. And the reason why I chose the VersaFine right here, I've only done it once before, I think, and it was on a recent Halloween scene that a lot of people really seemed to like. I was kind of surprised that so many people like that type of, that were into Halloween. But we have this space in here, and one of the things about kind of matte paper and VersaFine is it absorbs on here just fine, but it's almost like taking charcoal or something like that, or I don't know, maybe it's more like oil pastels, being that this is an oil-based medium. But what I do is I find that the paper towel is a fantastic device here like that. See that? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill in these extra spaces like this, okay? And I'll put a little bit of tone into those empty spaces, okay? So you don't have to get it all perfect. I certainly don't. All right? And let's bring some of this. Actually, that looks pretty good. I like adding some shadows down here. Okay. This is going to be like a snowy scene. It's not going to look really good until I'll show you what I'm going to do on here, too. All right? When I say it's not going to look really, you know, it's not going to look kind of finished until I do something on here, which is going to be really so much fun when I get to it, in theory. I don't know if I've done it before. I'll show you what I mean in a minute, or in a couple minutes here. Okay, so see what I'm doing here? I don't know if you watched some videos on my concept on lighting, scenic lighting, okay? If you have a chance, watch Easy, what was it called? Easy Scenic Lighting or something like that? I think you'll find it. If you look up Easy Lighting Stampscapes in the search parameter, you'll come across it. Now this is like using a little bit of like charcoal or something like that on a scene, okay? It really blends out beautifully, and you're not just using straight black of the VersaFine, okay? You're using more kind of grayscale, you know? It's like getting charcoal on a chamois or something like that, spreading it around. Okay, so we have that down there. Nothing great right now, but it's because all the values are kind of in one side of the value spectrum, or it's in one narrow area of the value spectrum, but I'll show you how we're going to extend that quite extreme here in a minute. Okay, so as far as like a focal point goes, let's use these wolves. I really like the wolves running in the snow. I think it's kind of this kind of wild kind of icon. I think it's kind of somewhat romantic. Running underneath the stars. Running free, whatever. Okay, let's see, where should we put these? Put these down here, I think. Alright, fairly solid silhouette-based image. Okay. Alright. So we have our focal point there, right? Alright, let's put in some type of vertical type of element in here. I'm going to go with this leafless pine. Leafless pine gives you kind of that element of depth without kind of obscuring the background because it is so bony like that. Okay, let's fold this over again here. And let's go for our super high-tech mask, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp out certain portions of it. You don't have to stamp out the whole design, okay? You can get much more kind of mileage out of partial usage of designs. And trees are a perfect opportunity for that type of notion. So what I've done here is there's this little slope on this snowy bank here, and I've put that tree kind of coming out of that. You see that? Where there's that line right there? Okay. I mean, you could put it anywhere. It doesn't have to be, you know, on the line or something like that. But it was a perfect kind of little opportunity for something like that. Okay? So I'm inking this up again here. And we'll go for maybe an even smaller portion, maybe a couple inches off the top. 2.5 maybe? Maybe that's 3 inches, I don't know. Okay. I think things look good in threes. Not in terms of the figures down there. You could have 3 wheels. Might be a third wheel, though, when it comes to that. But we'll go with as far as these trees go. We'll go with 3 in here. I mean, you can add as many as you want. You can add 20 if you want to. You can have one kind of small one in the background. Actually, that might be a good idea. Okay. So we'll go for 5. I just thought, you know, being that we're talking about kind of the smaller, minimal use of a given design, let me show you how to really do that here, okay? We'll go for several different impressions, but using different portions of the stamp. I have videos on that too. Okay, so that's the same tree. I mean, you know, I mean, in theory, I mean, I could use kind of the smaller version of it, you know, for true scale. But if you only have one, let's say, go ahead and just use just that. Okay, so let's see. We're on the 13-minute mark, and I was blabbing away at this. You know, I could have done this in 5 minutes. If I'm not kind of explaining things, I was just thinking about that with my quick scenes yesterday. Those scenes, I don't know, I think the video was an hour, but I'm kind of explaining how to stamp things out and, you know, showing, you know, how to do things. But in an actual kind of application, this is much faster. Okay, so I have a white paint pen here, and I just did a video on this one recently. This pack, I've been using these for months, but I don't think I had done a video on it. But these are really fantastic. You can use a white gel pen too. I used white gel pens for years, but I just find these to be easier to use, and I think they're cheaper too. An 8-pack of these was like less than $10. Okay, so we have, you know, we have various values in here. We have straight black, and I have different gray values in here from the usage and of that VersaFine ink being applied in here. But let's go for some lighter tones. This is going to stand out a little bit too until I do something else. I'll show you, in the end result. But this is a snowy type of scene, so what I'm doing here, let's zoom in, okay, is I'm just going in and I'm adding some different values. I need to shake this up a lot. This is really absorbent, this paper, so anytime you get a paint pen, whether it's new or you've been using it for a while, be sure and shake it up before usage. Okay, one of the things I think I'm going to find too, I hardly ever use kind of a non-coated matte paper, but this is going to be more absorbent, okay? And what I do to get these trees here is I take this and I flip it upside down because I find it easier to do this type of motion than doing this, this isn't the natural motion of my hand, and it's hard to see what I'm doing here, so kind of just flip your cards around in the direction that's going to be the most conducive for kind of a natural hand movement, okay? Alright, those trees are already looking a lot better with a little bit of contrast on them. Alright, see that? Actually, it looks pretty good, having it kind of a little bit less than white. I say that now, maybe if it was real white it would look good too, but kind of having that a little bit more translucent maybe looks better. Okay. Hit these trees. Am I working on screen here? Okay, see that? How it's looking. Kind of looks, kind of snowy. Maybe I need to go up to the tip there a little bit more, huh? So I just put it right next to the trunk, and I do that little check mark like that. But see, this is going this way, so I'm just going to flip this around like this. I'll come this way. You don't have to do it over every single branch, too. It's not like that, Like I said, you could if you want to, but you don't need to. Okay, so that's being laid on the trees now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of kind of highlights over here on the, see there's a little bit of grass in here too. And here's some rocks, maybe, on some of these rocks. You can put a little bit of snow pack or something like that on top of them. Put some ice crystals on these little blades of grass. Okay. All right. Okay, now we have scenes kind of about star birth. I mean, these sky figures, they can be the star of the scene, no doubt, but they can also play a role of kind of, I don't know, the emotional kind of foundation of a scene. And I think the emotional foundation of a scene is often the lighting. And where do you get the lighting from? It's often the sky, okay? So, I think that in this piece, while it is it's definitely a secondary player to, like, the wolves here, maybe the trees, maybe it's the third kind of thing, but it's definitely setting the foundation, though, for everything else. Kind of the emotional mood. Okay, now, what I was talking about before. Okay, this thing's kind of floppy here. That's pre-folded card. I'm just going to do this right here instead. And this is for my bleed-proof white splatter painting. Fun. You can call it a technique, but it sure is just fun to do. It's instantaneous as far as the effect too. And it's one of those things that's entirely possible because it's so fun to kind of overdo it. All right, so I have a brush right here. Someone just kind of informed me recently that, see, I'm using a flat brush here, and she said it's hard to find a flat brush these days, and I never thought about that. I thought, oh yeah, there's those ones that are, they're multi-level, they have different types of bristles in there. Stamp technology, right? And I thought, yeah, that might get in the way of kind of doing this uniform spray type of thing. All right, now I've inked this up in the front. I didn't dunk this whole thing, See, I didn't even dunk it in here. I just kind of dipped in that first little part of it. And there's a lot of paint in there. Now, when I do this, I'm not just going to zip, over the whole thing. I'm kind of releasing like one or two bristles at a time, for the sake of control. Oops, let's see here. Okay, here we go. Let's get this centered here. Now, normally I just hold this, but since we're using a kind of a this card that's kind of floppy and dimensional here. I'm going to be a little bit more careful in terms of my camera framing here. Okay. Okay, so just a couple little bristles at a time. Let's zoom in here a little bit more. Okay. This is kind of a snowy type of scene, so, maybe I can be a little bit more liberal with it. Just going right over the walls. Depending on how watery you make your paint, you have to kind of mix some water in with this before you use it. Usually, unless you're using it every day, like maybe a calligrapher or wedding invitation creator. You have to add water to this. I use it quite often, and I still have to use water to it. This stuff really dries really quickly. It's a real chalky substance, so I don't know. It just dries up even in the bottle here. Even though you sealed off the bottle adequately, sufficiently. Okay, so anyway, that is that. Oh, it'd be awesome on this is if you stamped out or embossed some sort of word stamp over the front of it in like white. Wouldn't that look cool? All right, so there you have that. All right. Let's see. It looks real busy like this, doesn't it? And maybe it is. Maybe it is real busy, but it's just really fun stuff to do. Oh, here. Let me do something else here. Testing out all these different types of things, for me, with new types of looks and media, paper combinations, since we used white in here. Okay, normally, when we're using something like white papers or white cardstocks, I have people retain some white areas, okay? Just so if they want to use some white pigment ink, like, Hero Hues, white pigment ink like that, we can go into this and add some of this in here, and for a nice little textural variation, okay? So let's go in here. I'm using kind of the white of the snow as kind of the vehicle by which to utilize some of this white paint. If you use this white paint over just a completely dark scene, it kind of looks weird without anything else in the scene white, but let's just see if having that white snow is adequate enough to make the usage of this white pigment ink here harmonize with the rest of the scene. I think it looks pretty good. Now, one of the things on this paper that I'm finding is that because it's so absorbent, is that It's barely showing up. But I think you can see it there, right? That kind of glow in there. On the coated cardstocks, it rests on the surface so much more um, obviously. Okay, it's a lot more obvious. This right here, still don't go into this with a big gigantic blob of paint, but I'm really inking this up, even though my pad is it's kind of medium dry, the way I like it. Okay, there's a little bit more, okay, that I'm adding in here, but it is really disappearing off of this really fast. So, okay, this is what I'm doing right here. I'm kind of adding some at the base of objects, like some trees and things like that, so it kind of gives it this low-lying fog type of feeling in here. Okay, now where this also is a lot of fun to do, let's go up to those. I don't know if this is going to be a good idea, but who cares? Let's just test it out. I'm going into the center of some of those stars. Right now, they're kind of nicely in the backdrop, but I want to add in some kind of a little bit of a stronger statement by them. Okay, it's not going to be huge. I don't want it like standing out in the forefront or anything like that. But I'm going into those center star points. Those are, in this one I made them all 4-point stars. And I'm giving it a stronger dot like that, okay? Doesn't that kind of add some nice variation back there? But that's not all. I need to get some oil-based ones. That would be maybe better for this one. It would, those dots would stand out a little bit stronger. But let's go in here, and I just have a Q-tip swab. Okay, you want it kind of nice and kind of frayed on the surface and kind of smashed down a little bit, but we'll go in and we'll make those little spheres kind of glow with a little bit of soft lighting. Again, you don't want a big blob of paint, so, you know, kind of dab off accordingly before you start utilizing it. Okay, like I said, my pad is pretty dry, so it's giving me kind of the ideal application amount, especially for this paper. Okay. All right. How's that right there? What do I have my? I don't know if I have my gold pen. Oh boy! I had a gold pen. I used it in this. Oh, one of these sides is not working. It might be this gold side. The tip was falling out. It might have been, maybe it was either gold or silver. But this kind of color scheme right here kind of lends itself pretty well to a gold little embellishment. I do have some gel pens, but I just don't think they're going to show up in there very strong. So I'm going to, yeah, see this gold thing, this tips is falling off, so I definitely need a new gold pen here, but I'm not going to take a chance of getting a big blob right here. This tip right here is falling off. This Zig Painty pen is really good, but I don't know. It's like 20 years old. It's still flowing real. I'm just going to use the silver one here. I'm going to put some silver little embellishments. It doesn't really show up on this paper until you kind of capture it in the light. The gold would be better though. I like the silver with blue tinged colors. Okay, so anyways, let me see if you can see. Can you see those starry areas right there? See, I love doing that type of thing against like the Milky Way or Starbirth or something like that. But from a textural standpoint, And that's what those, those areas are about, kind of, the nighttime skies. It's about texture and kind of mood and ambiance, but set against, your foreground like that. So anyway, quick and easy right there. Like I said, this wouldn't take this long. It's 30 minutes into the video right now, but this is like a 10-minute card probably, if that. And I added in a lot of different little techniques right there. They're kind of minimal though. I usually add a little bit more mist in some of my other work. Definitely more color applications in my other work. But you have the kind of splatter painting and the highlighting work with the white pen. We can use a little bit more of that in here. I think, some white paint in here might be kind of interesting too, or that pigment ink kind of up on those bluffs to kind of capture some of that light maybe. I don't know if I can do it with this here. You can kind of paint with the, some of that white pigment ink on the top of, or on the tops of some of these little bluffs here. And I don't know, it kind of adds that nice little soft element. I really love doing this type of thing. I don't do it very often. I should. Things like charcoal, I love that kind of charcoal-ish type of look. And I do love, kind of monochromatic pieces too. But adding these little types of touches like this it's just a lot of fun to do. See how I just kind of ran it along top of that ridge like that? It's a little bit more dimensional though, like that, right? Okay, so anyway, Wolves in the Snow on a paper bag. That's the name of the thing like that. But definitely quick and easy when you have a pre-folded card and put some kind of saying in there, Merry Christmas or whatever. And spray seal, before you. I think this would be good with the spray fixative a matte one. But anyway, some decent dimension, decent depth, and subtle, but you have that starburst going on back there for kind of your change in textures and kind of to create, the setting and foundational type of, I don't know, like the emotional content of the scene. Wolves in the Snow, they're going to have their own kind of, kind of emotional statement as well, but providing it with the kind of the source of light back up there kind of sets kind of a secondary tone for this given setting right here. So anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.